Russia launched 500 drones and 40 missiles, including Kinzhal missiles, at Kiev and the surrounding region on the night of December 27th, President Volodymyr Zelensky reported. As a result of the attack, more than 10 residential buildings were damaged, 2 people were killed, and dozens were injured. People were rescued from under the rubble of collapsed buildings. The main targets were energy and civilian infrastructure. Almost 500,000 people were left without electricity and heating. By evening, energy workers had managed to partially restore the power supply. Kristina Domrovskaya reports from the scene on how Kiev endured Russia's overnight attack. At
night on December 27th, the Russian army attacked Kiev and the region in several waves using drones and ballistic missiles. The air raid alert lasted almost 10 hours. Residential buildings in 7 districts of the capital were hit directly first and foremost. This is what it looks like. One of the apartment buildings after the attack by a Russian drone. The area around the building is strewn with debris and glass. The upper floors were seriously damaged by the strike. One of the residents of the complex was miraculously able to escape from the Russian
drone. I'm standing right at the door and I suddenly realize that it's about to completely fall. I quickly go inside and barely have enough time to close the door just a little bit before it collapses. And it just, boom, and crashed into the building. And right away, a second later, my face turned. And my face got cut, the front door too. I ran to wash my eyes. I thought that was it, that I no longer had a face, but I was lucky. Thank God everyone is alive and well.
We were sleeping and then it hit so hard it threw all of us up. It was sometime after 7 in the morning. We got scared, the kids jumped out of bed. I'm not from Kiev, we came to visit the kids. Every time we come to visit, this is how we're greeted. It's unpleasant, but everything is fine.
Right now, the average temperature in Kiev is around 0, so heating stations have been set up at the impact sites. Relevant services will be working at the damaged sites until nightfall to carry out as much emergency rescue work as possible, according to the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Ukraine.
Local units for heating, electricity, and water have arrived. In the near future, we need to conduct appropriate engineering assessments at all locations, which will allow us to connect as many people as possible to water and heating supplies. This is critically important. In the meantime, we are setting up mobile headquarters and installing heated tents. Ihor Klimenko, Minister of Internal Affairs of Ukraine.
As a result of the massive Russian attack, almost a third of Kiev is without heating. The Ministry of Energy reported a massive Russian strike on Ukraine's energy system. About 500,000 Kiev residents are without electricity. Such shelling, that's what it is. This is Russia's response to the proposal to end the war, which was put forward by the United States and the international community, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. According to him, the main target was Kiev's energy and civilian infrastructure. In some districts of the region, there is no electricity or heating due to the attacks.
Russian representatives engage in lengthy talks, but in reality, it's the Kinzhals and Shaheds that do the talking for them. This is the true attitude of Putin and his inner circle. They do not want to end the war and are trying to use every opportunity to inflict more pain on Ukraine and increase their pressure on others around the world. And this means that the counter-pressure is not enough. If Russia even turns Christmas and New Year holidays into a time of destroyed homes, burned apartments, and ruined power stations, then this painful activity can only be answered with truly strong measures. The United States has this capability, and so does Europe. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense once again traditionally claims that the objectives of the strike were supposedly achieved and that all designated targets were hit. The attack on the capital of Ukraine occurred at that very moment, when President Volodymyr Zelensky was preparing to meet with the head of the White House, Donald Trump, in Florida, against the backdrop of ongoing efforts to end Russia's full-scale invasion. Kristina Domrovska for Freedom TV channel.
Also, during the night attack, the Russians struck a naftogaz extraction facility with Shahed drones. This was stated by the company's CEO, Serhiy Koretsky. According to him, the attacks are being carried out precisely during the cold snap. The aggressor is trying to take advantage of the freezing temperatures and peak loads to disable the power system. The emergency crew, technical services, and all relevant departments are working in enhanced mode to eliminate the consequences of the attack. The nighttime shelling of Ukrainian cities by Russia is part of a deliberate policy of terror and escalation. This was stated by the Lithuanian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Kęstutis Budrys. According to him, even during the Christmas holidays when people should be safe and close to their loved ones, Moscow once again chose violence over peace. Budrys noted that the Russian dictator has no intention of stopping the killings and that international pressure on Russia is still insufficient.
Ukraine needs security guarantees as soon as possible. A strong and well-funded Ukrainian army. A future in the European Union and the stability it provides. Commitments from the US and a coalition of willing countries to protect Ukrainian territories, the sea and airspace. There is no time for hesitation. The time to act has come. We have already delayed this for far too long. Kęstutis Budrys, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Lithuania, on the social network X.
Spanish Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares also condemned the Russian strikes on Ukraine's civilian and energy infrastructure. The diplomat stated that such massive Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy sector, which also result in civilian casualties, must stop. Albares emphasized that Spain will continue to support Ukraine and all efforts to achieve a just and lasting peace. On the night of December 27th, Russian occupiers also dropped 3 aerial bombs on Slavyansk in the Donetsk region. A local resident was injured. In addition, 36 private homes were damaged. Residents of this area have already endured more than one similar attack. Our correspondents visited the site of the strike.
Russian troops struck the private sector of Slavyansk late the previous evening. The invaders used 3 FAB-250 aerial bombs for the attack. One of them completely destroyed a residential house.
It was around 11 o'clock p.m. I don't look at the clock exactly. It was around that time that the strike happened. Everything was blown out. There was a huge bang. The whole yard was covered in glass. I've already replaced the glass twice. Well, before, not this time, but before I replaced the glass. Now is the 3rd time I've had to fix it.
As a result of the attack, 36 private homes were also damaged. Amalia lives in one of them. At the moment of the strike, the woman was not at home. She found out what happened from her neighbor.
She called at night during curfew. I only came in the morning. She was here.
So where will you go now? Back to friends, relatives, or for now? I don't know.
I don't know where I'll go. I can't yet.
At the beginning of December, a Russian air bomb fell just 50 meters from her property. The house was damaged then, partially. Now it's not suitable for living at all.
And there's no roof. No ceiling, no 6 window, 2 doors, and the gate. There's nothing left at all. And
this time the air bomb exploded in the neighbor's yard. Almost nothing is left of their home, and they had to pull an elderly man out from under the rubble. Fortunately, he was almost unharmed. On December 1st, a Russian air bomb also struck a neighboring street. Local residents share their stories.
And the children lived over there. The house was on fire on the 1st. 3 children, a man. Thank God they managed to get out in time.
This is lawlessness. Not just lawlessness. Calling it lawlessness is putting it mildly. They're just bombing the civilian population, that's all. People are just trying to survive, I guess. Maybe survival is all that's left for the people. That's it.
Volunteers immediately came to help the victims. They are giving residents wooden boards and tarpaulins. Dmytro Hlushko from Donetsk region for Freedom TV channel.
Canada will allocate about $1.8 billion in aid to Ukraine. This was announced by the country's Prime Minister Carney during a meeting with the President of Ukraine in Halifax. In addition, the Canadian Prime Minister noted that there are now conditions and opportunities to achieve a just and lasting peace. However, according to Carney, this also requires Russia's willingness, which is not there yet. He also strongly condemned Russia's overnight attack on the Ukrainian capital. Vladimir Zelensky in turn noted that these strikes are Russia's eloquent response to all peace efforts.
We have all the conditions and opportunities to achieve a just and lasting peace, but for this it is necessary to force Russia. The barbaric nighttime attack on Kiev shows just how important it is for us to support Ukraine during this difficult time and to create the conditions for a just and lasting peace.
We need to stop this war no matter what. And we need 2 things. Pressure on Russia and strong enough support for Ukraine. We will talk about this. We will talk about air defense. And that's true. In the past week, we have managed to make good progress in diplomacy. But we cannot live under the illusion that we need less air defense. That doesn't work with Russia.
Also in Canada, Volodymyr Zelensky will hold an online meeting with European leaders to discuss and coordinate positions ahead of Sunday's meeting in Florida with U.S. President Donald Trump. The United States of America has offered Ukraine security guarantees for a period of 15 years, but Ukraine is interested in longer-term commitments. Volodymyr Zelensky noted that most aspects of the agreements between the countries have already been coordinated, but there are still technical issues to be discussed. One of the key questions is the duration of the agreements. Ukraine is hoping for support for its position, including from Donald Trump. Zelensky also noted that the security guarantees will be ratified by parliaments or approved in a nationwide referendum. European countries, particularly France and the United Kingdom, can play an important role in ensuring Ukraine's security. But Ukraine, together with the United States, is working on a plan for the country's future development and recovery. This concerns investments in the economy and security up to the year 2040. This was stated by Volodymyr Zelensky in response to journalists' questions. He reported that 5 key security guarantee documents between Kiev and Washington, as well as between Ukraine and European countries, will be discussed in the United States of America. Military support, the plan for Ukraine's prosperity and recovery. The last item on this list is a step-by-step action plan that will outline how all decisions will be implemented in practice. But there is a good chance for a peaceful deal, according to U.S. President Donald Trump. He made this statement on the eve of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's visit to Florida. Donald Trump noted that there is a possibility of reaching a peace agreement. However, negotiations remain difficult due to disagreements between the parties. The U.S. president added that both Ukraine and Russia are inclined toward a peaceful resolution, but are proceeding with caution. Ukraine's defense forces are clearing out the remaining Russians. Kupiansk, Kharkiv region, while the Russian Ministry of Defense once again claimed to have allegedly captured the city. In total, 62 combat clashes have been recorded on the front line since the beginning of the day, according to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. More details about the situation at the front are coming up next.
After the counteroffensive by the defense forces in the vicinity of Kupiansk, the Russians have increased the number of FPV drone and fiber-optic drone attacks. At the same time, the enemy is carrying out infantry assaults much less frequently. As Ukrainian defenders note, in this direction it has become more difficult for the invaders to move due to the severe frost. The weather conditions have noticeably worsened. After prolonged fog and rain, significant frosts have arrived across all of Ukraine. The weather has cleared up and the Russians have significantly increased the presence of unmanned components in the direction of our positions. Both at night and during the day, electronic warfare systems are simply overloaded and are trying to suppress everything flying toward us. Vitaly Milovidov, head of the communications department of the 15th Operational Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Korodak, live on Suspilne. In Kupiansk itself, Ukrainian fighters continue to clear the surrounding areas of the remaining Russian occupiers. According to the defense forces fighters, fewer than 100 enemy soldiers remain there, hiding in houses and basements. Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense has once again claimed to have captured the city. The Russians assert that Kupiansk is supposedly under the full control of the Zapad group units. Previously, both Gerasimov and Putin had already reported the alleged capture of the settlement. However, the defense forces continue to prove otherwise time and again.
The paradoxical situation is that many million subscriber Z Telegram channels in the Russian Federation are literally trying to explain directly to the Russian people and population that they haven't lost control over Kupiansk, because in fact they never actually gained that control in the first place. This claim directly contradicts the logic and spirit of statements made by the Russian dictator Putin, who has declared at least 3 times that there is full and total control over this settlement. So in fact, right now, Russian Z public channels with millions of subscribers are openly accusing the Russian dictator of lying.
In the Podvolchansk area, an FPV operator, reconnaissance drones from the 57th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade named after Kostya Gordienko are operating in the rear of the occupiers. The soldiers shared footage of their combat operations. Their fiber-optic drones destroyed Russian equipment, including cars, trucks, artillery, and communications equipment. and in the Konstantinovka direction, Russian forces attempted assaults in the areas of populated localities, specifically in the settlements of Pleshchevka, Sofievka and Stepanovka. On the Pokrovsk section of the front, the invaders were unable to push Ukrainian defenders from their positions near Kotlin, Udakhne, Molodetske and Filia. Defense forces also held back the Russians in the Alexandrovka direction, particularly near Vishneve, Rybne and Andriivka Klevtsove.
Notice how much less military equipment there is on the battlefield now, the very equipment the enemy uses. What does this tell us? This tells us that over these almost 4 years, we have systematically and methodically destroyed the armored component of the Russian army. And today, the Russians are left with what they have, a significant depletion of those very resources. Now, they've developed an obsession with preserving their remaining armored vehicles, which they are now trying to save. Either for very important tactical operations, or they're just saving them, as they say, for a rainy day.
The village of Dronivka in the Donetsk region remains under the control of Ukrainian forces despite attempts by Russian occupiers to seize the settlement. This was reported by the soldiers of the Skid military group. According to them, the invaders are advancing from two directions, the city of Siversk and the settlement of Yampol. However, Ukrainian defenders are holding their positions. Earlier, the Russians claimed that they had allegedly captured Dronivka and Serebryanka. But soon after, Ukraine's defense forces refuted this information. Over the past week, Russian troops have attempted mechanized assaults in the Kostiantynivka direction. Taking advantage of the freezing temperatures and hardened ground, the Russian army brought in equipment. However, pilots from the 28th Separate Mechanized Brigade did not allow the Russians to break through and destroyed at least 25 enemy vehicles, along with their personnel.
In October and November, about 65% of the losses were in manpower, specifically killed in action. In other words, the enemy does not have time to carry out certain evacuation or medical procedures. The enemy does not protect the personnel of the Russian army who are sent to assault. They use adapted vehicles for this purpose, which certainly do not protect against either Ukrainian shells or Ukrainian bullets. And frankly speaking, this trend is logical, but it does exist. And this means that the actions that the Ukrainian army is currently carrying out as part of its strategic defense are absolutely clear. We are depleting the offensive potential of the Russian army.
And in the past 24 hours, Ukraine's defense forces have eliminated 1,240 invaders. In total, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the losses of the Russian army have already amounted to more than 1,203,000 servicemen. Also, in the past day, 5 tanks and 19 armored combat vehicles were destroyed. 33 artillery systems and 158 units of enemy vehicles as well. They coordinate the actions of the fighters on the battlefield, make decisions, and hold their positions under enemy fire. It is precisely the Sergeant Corps in the army that determines how soldiers will perform during combat missions or when engaging the enemy. To strengthen this command link, Sergeant courses are regularly held for servicemen of mechanized brigades in the Donetsk region. Our correspondents also attended one of these training sessions.
The enemy has been destroyed. Observation post, fallback. Copy that. Permission granted, tactical withdrawal. Right now, live fire exercises are being conducted for squad leaders. At the moment, they are going through the defensive combat program. Each service member in this course takes turns becoming the squad leader and directly commanding the squad during combat.
Modern sergeant training. It lasts 21 days at the brigade base. This is an accelerated course, but even in that time, in addition to firearms and personnel management training, the soldiers manage to study other disciplines as well.
We also work on tactical training, firearms training, engineering, military topography, and reconnaissance. In other words, we cover all the main subjects in this course.
Oleg, chief instructor, and today he monitors the fulfillment of the tasks assigned to the fighters, corrects the actions of his charges, and supervises the course of training.
A group of bushes. There, the observation post takes up position. And Pishka took a position. We literally just took up our position. 30 seconds. Regulate your breathing and report. Call sign? Ringing. Remember? Ringing. I see an enemy group.
First, the personnel must go through the course without live fire, learning the movement and communication algorithm. Then they proceed to simulate combat conditions.
At first, there was a sense of urgency. First, the observation post moved out and reported the presence of the enemy. Next, the unit would leave cover, take up firing positions, and open fire to neutralize the enemy. Later, after expending their ammunition, they practiced a tactical retreat under the cover of smoke.
It's impossible for everyone to perform this task perfectly on the first try. However, each soldier must go through and master it during the exercises.
I'd rate it as good. Maybe there's still a bit of a lack of coordination, but that's all just a matter of practice. Practice, and the more practice, the better the result will be.
Ivan is one of the participants in today's exercises and has been in the army since 2024. He took a similar course in Britain. He says such training is very useful since the skills acquired here help in real combat situations where a mistake can cost you your life.
It's important to understand that a lot depends on the squad commander. In some situations, this can save lives. The lives of your comrades, your personnel.
The main goal of the course is to develop the fighters' leadership qualities, teach them how to communicate with subordinates, and train them to be mentors for the new recruits.
The sergeant courses helped me shape my personality, gain confidence, and improve my skills in managing personnel. The course is great.
Such training sessions also help identify mistakes in unit management and allow squad commanders to adjust their actions before heading out on combat missions.